Hey everyone, over the years many things have been added to DBD, many of them teased before their release. Some however are teased, but secretly, and in ways you more than likely missed. Here's every time I could think of where something was secretly teased. Let's get into it. One of the biggest cases of this has been with entire characters. The character of the Blight was actually referenced far before he was released to the game, with him appearing in Tome 1 and the beginning of the tomes over a year before his release, featuring in entries from a character at the time named the Alchemist. These stories recount him wandering the void and his subsequent escape, bringing him up to the point of the realm. Of course, Talbot Grimes, the Blight, is also an alchemist, and in the cutscenes shows a very similar resemblance. Haddie Core was a similar deal, with her actually being referenced way back in Tome 6, once again a year before her release. With this said though, Haddie in the tomes is actually different from Haddie in the realm, with it being an entirely different universe Haddie in the Omniverse. That Haddie goes through a whole lot more and slowly unravels a large Black Veil conspiracy as the years go on, with her living to a much older age than our Haddie, with her brother Jordan instead being taken into the realm in her place. We learn in the lore of many Haddies and Jordans across the Omniverse, with varying stories and varying cases of one or the other coming into the realm. Nevertheless, we learnt of both Haddies and her brother Jordan far before we got them in game. Chucky was a surprise for sure when announced, however there were hints toward his addition before he came. In October 2023, just a few months before he was announced, there were hints toward him in the tomes, with the release of Dredge's skin being a blend of toys. That was a connection I learnt from a Not Coro video. You can go check them out below, they have lots of interesting videos on license speculation. But that's not all. In the tome before, Tome 15, in April of 2023, we got a tome with Ash, with his living puppet. We also got a charm featuring the little Laurie doll from the show, packaged in a similar box to Chucky. All of these things within a year could be coincidental, but I would argue were small hints to Chucky approaching. Dracula, or more so vampires as characters, had a huge lead up, with the tomes being absolutely packed with vampires for the past few years. It's been a long time coming that a vampire finally appeared in game, with the constant references and the constant accumulation of vampires, which are one of the most prevalent creatures within the DBD Omniverse. There are so many stories about vampires in the lore: a woman killing her mother-in-law, believing her to be a vampire, vampires created by a strange fog, this vampire guy who appears in the tomes whilst the observer investigates various realms. Basically, this was a long time coming. Sure, it didn't specifically reference Dracula and Castlevania, but there has been an incredibly large lead up to this moment of vampires coming to the game. The lore all along has been secretly referencing their addition, a vampire uprising. Before we look at the next secret reference though, I'd like to introduce G Fuel, who I'm partnered with. Game-changing energy available in over 50 different flavors, many being inspired by IPs that you'll surely recognize, such as A Nightmare on Elm Street, Jinxie, Tetris, Fallout, and just so many more. There's a ton of cool collaborations and really great flavors, all in various forms such as tubs, cans, and even protein. There's something for everyone when it comes to G Fuel, so be sure to check it out over at gfuel.com and use code AZHY for 20% off your order. Links below. Naughty Bear was referenced and teased for his entrance to the realm during the 5th year anniversary, with the release of the Naughty Pinata charm, with the quote, "It would be dangerous not to invite this bear to the party," and 2 years later in the year 7 anniversary, at one of the game's yearly parties, it was announced Naughty Bear would be added. Naughty Bear's universe is further referenced in Min's esports team, the Laser Bears, with their logo featuring one of the futuristic bears from Naughty Bear. This at the time was more than likely just a reference to Behavior's prior work, but I do believe the charm was a more direct reference to Naughty's approach to the realm, and announcement on an anniversary. Sable Ward was very subtly referenced just before she was added with the release of a Michaela cosmetic. In the flavor text of this cosmetic, it mentions that Michaela met her best friend at the cinema for an afternoon of classic horror movies. Later we learned that this friend wasn't in reference to her roommate Julian, like most assumed, but instead Sable and the new map Greenville, and its main feature, the cinema. Further, when Sable later released alongside the Greenville cinema, inside of the cinema, it's possible to play a film by completing the generator in the projector room. This film references the upcoming DBD spin-off game The Casting of Frank Stone, with an image of the mill from the game. game. Admittedly, in this case, the game had already been announced for a while, but we hadn't seen much yet, so it was a bit more revealing. The film seems to be named Murder Mill, which was later confirmed as linked to the game too, and seems to be what the characters within the game will be filming at one point. Michael Myers had hints toward him arriving into the realm as far back as the art book. In the art book, on the Meat Locker page, we can see a man very reminiscent to Michael Myers dragging someone away, wielding a similar knife to him too. At the time, it's highly possible this was just going to be an original version of Myers, with them notably not showing his face, and in a similar way to Trapper being a likely original version of Jason, and Billy an original version of Bubba, as it would be unlikely they knew they were getting Myers at the time. It's possible this was an original concept, but after they learnt that they were getting Myers in the game, they decided to fade out his face so it was unclear. Just a complete theory though there. With this image being related to Meat Lockers 2, it seems possible this was meant to be a Texas Chainsaw Massacre reference and Franklin's demise. Whilst again they may not have known about the potential of actually getting this license, I do think it's a cool connection nonetheless. The Plague had reference made to her within a live stream, and this situation seemed to be a bit of a slip-up. During a dev stream, Dave, a dev, discusses a character that is older than any of the others we've seen so far, and they've added to the game before, with this referencing the later release of Plague.
We're actually, if everything goes to plan, introduce our killer that is the furthest in the past by a long shot.
That's crazy that you just blurted out there.
Spoiled.
I'll have to deal with that.
That's amazing.
It's unclear whether this was part of the plan as sort of a fake slip-up, or whether they actually didn't want to release this information, as Matthew Cote's reaction is unclear in my opinion either way. What do you think? I know this one's not so much a secret, but I sort of think because it could be a slip-up, it could be considered a bit of a secret at the time at least. There were hints toward the Oni coming to the realm before he entered it. This was done through the Yamaoka's shared home map of the Yamaoka estate. On this map you could find an Oni shrine, a reference to the upcoming character. When it came near to the release of Oni's chapter though, the shrine had one of its blades go missing, revealing the Oni was approaching and would be coming soon to the trials as a playable character, now wielding his ancestral blade. Élodie Rakoto was yet another character referenced in the lore before she came to the realm. In Tome 1, a survivor is referenced who attempts to counter a cult of the entity and walks in on a ritual sacrifice. She isn't named at this point, so it's not entirely clear if it's her, but it does align with the story of her lore and closely links to the addition of the Pariahs and the Blight into the realm. Stranger Things had a sneaky reference made to it just before it released over on the Netflix Twitter page. There were a few signs that something was coming, but the most on the nose but still indirect reference made was the Stranger Things account posting 3 screenshots that seemed completely unrelated to anything. However, within these 3 screenshots there were the words dead, bye, and daylight, a reference of course to the show coming into the realm of the entity. Five Nights at Freddy's was possibly referenced to within the tomes, suggesting an upcoming release. In the tomes there's a lore character named Saku, or the Red Crane. During her adventures with Maurice, she comes across an abandoned theme park, and within it some old rusted animatronics, one of them being an animatronic bear with a similar hat to that of Freddy from Five Nights at Freddy's. There's a clear, striking resemblance. Of course, recently Five Nights at Freddy's was confirmed to be coming to the game. The Blood Moon event is an interesting one, with it technically being referenced all the way back in pre-alpha, with it being suggested as a possible weather variation for the game, a blood moon. The Blood Moon was then referenced again in a charm during Tome 7, so before the event came to be in 2024, the idea of a blood moon had been in the works for a while, or at least in the minds of the developers. So whilst these probably weren't secret hints toward this event, it is something that was repeatedly referenced, and therefore I think this is at the very least a valid connection. In the prototype build there was small hints toward the Huntress as a character. Way back in testing it seems that a character with bunny ears was being tested, with this character appearing otherwise like the Trapper, only with bunny ears. It's clearly an idea they had in the works and wanted to implement for a character, and acted as a small hint toward the one they would release over a year after the game's release, the Huntress. The Mad Designer was a character referenced a long time ago in the very beginning of the tomes, where she was first introduced through the Observer in Arcus 129 1999, when he receives an invitation to the entity's birthday party. This later being revealed to be an invitation from the mad designer herself, Tryks. Tryks was referenced in many other areas too though. She's repeatedly mentioned in the tomes, but also in-game in cosmetics, often signed off with tags such as Zizzletrix, Ladytrix, Zzz, and many other names. All of these various names from throughout the years are all her, and all seem to be variations of herself. She's someone capable of such power as a result of mastering the realm, much like characters like Vigo. She's able to manipulate the realm to her will and even create inside of it, which is what allows her such power within the entity. We finally saw her for the first time in the Year 8 anniversary, with her appearing as the event's host, and her adoring the entity seemingly, and what she refers to as the Sweet Darkness. So a character with a whole lot of lead up, probably the most actually we've ever seen so far. Pyramid Head was made reference to with the announcement of the Year 4 anniversary. Within the event's artwork there was a strange stylization of the 4. This led to theories being created that it was Pyramid Head, due to his head fitting the shape. At the time this was debated as they had never hinted at the next killer by means of something like this before. It further led to future years and their artwork being thoroughly analysed in case a shape matched up to a possible killer. So there you have it, all of the teasers you likely missed over the years that hinted toward upcoming content. I do hope you enjoyed, and let me know if I missed anything too down below. Thanks, and goodbye.